Alright, there we go. I think we're all set up now. Okay. Let me go ahead and make some posts here and we will get started. Let's see. We are officially live. And then go to YouTube and make sure we're live. I also want to make sure, like, you know, my thing isn't crapping out, because that would be nice. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Got worried for a moment. I'm sitting there going, uh-oh, am I not live? So. Okay. And what was the one thing I wanted to check? Stream quality is good. Well, that's good. Racing Insanity, how you doing? It's been excuse me. It's been quite the day. Had the ARCA race, had NFL draft going on. We had the Xfinity race and all that fun jazz. So hope y'all are enjoying your Saturday. And of course, a new fork in the road as well. Saw that. Red Ben, how are you? I'm just currently sharing around. Make sure people know. Hey Daniel, how's it going? Share that. Alright, cool. So, oh wow. Alright. So yeah, Lawless Allen winning the ARCA race. I saw that. I saw Cletus McFarlane got a top 10. Good for him. Let's see if I can find the full finishing order. Obviously, I was following Braden Laster. We finished the race in one piece. That was our biggest goal. I told him before the racing, and do not wreck that race car. We can't afford it. And he listened. Oh, man. Yeah, because I know it seemed like he had some motor issues, but if he was able to finish the race, that's definitely good. You know. Hello, Newman. Ah, yes. Fork in the road. Yeah. So, yeah. Fun video they put together there. And obviously, I'll give some quick updates before I begin with Sunday Night Lights 2000. I have been recording a bunch of stuff and just getting a bunch of things for the video together. So, progress is being made very well. We're still on track for the May 16th release. So, of course, we revealed that in the recent Racing Infinity, which, wow, I just want to say it's already at 1,000 views, which is incredible. It just felt like it happened overnight. It felt like, you know. So seriously, thank you all for the support. I'm glad y'all like that. That's awesome. Seriously, thank you. I think that video turned out pretty well. So, Andrew, how's it going? So yeah. Let's see what else is there. So yeah, Sunday Night Lights 2000. Been recording a bunch of footage. Going to continue doing that this weekend and get the video started. Interesting that Penske's a Pontiac team. Yeah, well, I know Penske was a Pontiac team in real life in the early 90s when they first came in. So I was like, okay, well, it's not too far-fetched. So, Doritos and Mountain Dew, how you doing? Fork in the Road, Sunday Night Lights commentary, and a Going Heat 5 career mode vid, and all day. Life is good. Yeah, I mean, it makes me happy people enjoy this kind of stuff, and makes me feel good and everything else. So, for anyone that is not familiar with Sunday Night Lights, basically, we made ReStart a year ago for the sole purpose of just basically saying, we want to show the earlier years in a better way. Because obviously, when I started this 5 years ago now, which is insane, good lord. So we're going into our 20th season, something like that. So the fact that we started that far back and now we're here is just, it's only something that I envisioned 5 years ago when I started this, and thought to myself, what the heck is, what's 2000 going to look like? But first I had to be like, well, what's 1985 going to look like? What's 1990 going to look like? What's 95 and 96 going to look like? So now I'm asking, like, once I get done with 2000, like, okay, what's 2003 going to look like? What's 2007 going to look like? The 2010s, and so on and so forth. So it's just insane to me. We've gotten so far, and, really thankful for all the support. But anyway, the idea of Sunday Night Lights is basically taking those old videos and presenting them in a better way, and as like a reintroduction of the series. Like, this is a better way to introduce Sunday Night Lights to people who may not be as familiar with the series. So let's rewind our VHS tapes. Yeah, exactly. Especially now in our time, in this timeline that we're in, Sunday Night Lights, we're pretty much in the age of the DVDs coming out, so, which is crazy. Yeah. Glad you guys are excited, though. Is Cartoon Network and Turner Broadcasting staying as a sponsor? That's something I cannot answer yet, but when we get done with 2000, then we'll start asking those questions and figuring out what 2001 is going to look like. And in a way, we kind of have had to plan '01 just a little bit, because obviously Dodge is coming in, so that was revealed in 1999 and everything else. So, but we'll talk about that later. Try to think of any more quick things before I get started here. I don't want to keep on yapping here, but thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. I know it's been a pretty eventful Saturday with all the races going on, and of course the NFL draft, and everyone losing their minds over Shedeur Sanders, but anyway, let's see, checking a couple more things. Okay, so yeah, we're just gonna we did a live director's commentary before. We're doing that again here with Sunday Night Lights. It's Sunday Night Lights ReStart. Tommy Gill actually... Yeah, I guess I knew how crazy this timeline was going to get after doing that first 500, because there was still some stuff that I was still learning myself. So, just, there was a lot of things I learned over the last 5 years doing these races, whether it's, figuring out certain track things, because I remember one early Daytona track I used had this weird glitch where a car would be really slow in the backstretch, and suddenly it would just snap around and spin, and suddenly a bunch of cars started wrecking. You'll actually see, I think the 84 500 I did, I had Mike Alexander drive through the field. That was a result of that, and I had to come up with an excuse for that, so it was just like, it's a little frustrating. I'm going to have to do something a little different there, but okay, so make sure it sounds good. All right. So with that being said, let's see if this works. All right. Let me know if I need to up the volume or anything, guys, or how everything sounds.
What defines NASCAR? I shouldn't need to tell you that NASCAR is more than driving circles. It's the most distinctive and competitive racing series in the world. Drivers with skill, stamina, grit, and passion wheel some of the fastest.
Yeah, these are a lot of
machines on
videos that I
Earth.
took over the years.
NASCAR is more than a sport. It's a touring festival that crosses the country and the world. It's the motorsport.
I need to get back to
built for
Nashville.
everyone. As Ken
It's
Squire
very
once
quiet,
put it,
okay?
they're common men doing uncommon things. Over more than 75
Interesting,
years,
okay.
the sport has moved from the beach at Daytona and the hills of the Carolinas to an international brand.
There we go.
The centerpiece
Let me know how that
of
sounds.
American racing. Some have become legends by shattering records. Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Gordon, to name a few. Along the way, some drivers have become iconic by fans who ask what could have been. Alan Kulwicki, Adam Petty, Rob Moroso, and Davey Allison. And along the way, thousands of drivers played their own small roles in the live spectacle the series continues to push forward. The NASCAR of
Much
today
better.
would
Good,
look
good.
far different if even a few things changed decades ago. What you're about to see is the story so far in a new NASCAR timeline, which began in 1981. This series, which started 4 years ago, does more than asking what if. We're rewriting racing history. Welcome to Sunday Night Lights.
God, we started planning this in like the summer of 2019, and so much has just changed
Sunday
since
Night
then.
Lights is a simulation that's creating NASCAR alternate history.
Yes, there will be.
With a
Hey, Brendan.
unique
Yeah,
creative
there
edge.
will be
Uses
there will
mods
be a
for
trailer as
NASCAR
always.
Racing
And
2003
when I get closer
season
to finishing the
create
video,
the
I will
most
absolutely
elaborate NASCAR
get that going as
simulation
well.
To date. I started this series 4 years ago, and since then, I've learned so much about what makes NASCAR special, whether in its history, its characters, or its innovation. We've run hundreds of races in the NASCAR National Series, plus IROC, up to the 1997
I know there's a couple
season.
instances where
17 years and counting. And now today,
now there's 20.
I bring Sunday Night Lights Restart.
I know there's a couple
This video
instances
is
where I
an
made some
entry
editing
point
errors
to
because
catch you up
I need
on
to
this
admit I
timeline.
need to do better on
And
my
for
part.
longtime
doing that.
viewers, it presents the story in a new, better way, featuring all new footage from a mix of archived replays and reenactments. This video will cover the
Something I've done
1981
better
season up until
in
the
the
middle
earlier
of
years
1989.
than I did in
And
the earlier
second part
seasons
will cover
is
1989
basically
to
saving
1997,
the
where
replays
the timeline
and
stands
archiving
today.
all that.
For those of you who are new, here are a few of my ground rules. Number one, there will not be any fatalities in the series.
Let's
I
see.
don't feel comfortable doing that.
So
And
the
I want
reason
to
why
celebrate each
we
and
started in
every
81
driver
was
that
we initially thought
appears
about
in the
87,
series.
and we decided,
Injuries can
well,
happen for extreme
let's do something a little
circumstances,
different. Let's have a
but
different kind of a
those are
start.
rare.
So we just decided
Number
1981
two,
was
I
just
do not interfere
a good year
with
to
the
start
results and winners. This is almost entirely a pure simulation, the only exceptions being a few chosen story elements, which will only affect a moment of a race and not the winners, pole sitters, or champions. These are very few and far between. And number three, create new ideas where possible. This is more than a what-if series. It explores a creative mindset through the history of NASCAR, with the simulation being the driver of it all. Some drivers will have similar fates to real life, and others will be radically different, so deciding where they end up will balance both realism and creativity. With all that out of the way, let's go back to the beginning. Welcome back to 1981. We now go back to where it all began as we show you the opening lap of the 1981 Daytona 500.
Man. I remember I was doing so much digging because, like, I know I had some older replays saved somewhere, and then I was like, oh, thank God, I had the 81 500
Bobby
saved.
Allison and Dave Marcus are side by side as they roar down the back stretch.
That made me happy. I was able to actually save
side
that.
Side by side, Dave Marcus seems to have the advantage on that
Dave
inside
Marcus.
line as they now come off of turn 4, and Ricky Rudd in the 88 is starting to pop into the picture. And coming back to the start and finish line, it's going to be Dave Marcus leading lap 1 over Ricky Rudd.
I'm trying to think of all the drivers in this race who are still racing in 2000.
The first caution of the race came out
Hey,
on
Corvette,
lap
how you doing,
19
man?
during green flag pit stops when Johnny Rutherford slammed into the number 3 of
Let's
Richard
see.
Childress, causing a pileup that also
Yeah, that's how long
collected
ago this
Donnie
was. Richard
Allison,
Childress was
Neil
racing.
Bonnet, and Glenn Jarrett. Jeff Bodine also ran into the 86 of Elliott Forbes Robinson that caused him
Ricky
to lose
Rudd.
control of his number 23 car. Under that same caution, Tim Richmond lost control of his car coming off turn 2.
Oh yeah.
And then the 68 of Lenny Pond would drive in him and go sliding into the grass, as well as the
that's right, because 81 they changed the car bodies because of
both Richmond and Gordon were done for the day.
Fuel crisis that took place in the 70s.
Jody Ridley would then restart.
So when you're looking back on it, yeah, 81
with
just
cars on the
even made
tail
even
end
more
of the
sense
lead
because it
lap
was just
ahead of
like,
him.
you know, it was that turning point where
The race
NASCAR
would
was starting to
then
get
be
more
turned
popular.
upside down with 15 laps to go, as Bobby Allison had the car to beat. However,
So,
that
when
would
I
all
started the
change
series,
when the lap
81
car,
through
Tom
86
Sneva, would cut up in front of the charging
was treated-
Allison, and this would trigger
this
a
wreck.
pileup. Sneva put Allison into the wall, and then Allison would hit the
Um,
27
what
of
was I gonna
Cale
say?
Yarborough.
81 through 86 was treated as
Tommy
prologue
Gale would
years.
lead the field back to the green flag with 10 laps to go.
So I did things a little differently back then because initially it was like we're treating this as a statistical start, and then 87 was like initially
Daytona 500 that
how
year
we were
had
going
an
to
upset victory in the form of
start things off for
46-year-old
real.
Tommy Gale from McKeesport,
And yeah, Richard Childress
Pennsylvania, driving
was a
for
racer
car
at one
owner
point.
Elmo Langley, as he beat the Sports King to earn his first Winston Cup victory. Final lap for Tommy Gale as he's trying to hold off Richard Petty, and he has just 4 more
Page Bobby
corners to
Allison.
go. Gale still has a pretty good gap between himself and Petty as they come off turn 2 and down the back straightaway for the final time in the Daytona 500.
Yeah, let me know if the audio of the video is drowning out my voice, by the way.
In what has been a wild turn of events here in Daytona, it's going to be Tommy Gale holding off Richard Petty, and he's going to get his first Winston Cup Series win at the Daytona 500. What a huge win for the 46-year-old, and this will be one he remembers for the rest of his life.
And that was pretty much his only win he ever got.
2 drivers in particular dominated the 1981 Winston Cup season, those being one of the members of the Alabama gang, Bobby Allison, and Owensboro, Kentucky native Darrell Waltrip. Allison started the season strong, winning the season opener at Riverside.
What was the top 10
then
from the
winning
81
the
500?
Clash and one of the dual races at Daytona.
You know
he
what?
returned to victory lane in the 4th race of the
Should
season
have that
at Rockingham,
result saved somewhere.
and again 4 races later in the spring Darlington race. He then won during the summer at Texas World in the 2nd Talladega race. Allison would also sweep both races at Dover and Rockingham. Meanwhile, Darrell Waltrip won 11 times on the season, earning 19 top 5s and 20 top 10s. At one point, Waltrip won 3 in a row at the Daytona Summer Race, the Nashville Fairgrounds, and Pocono.
Okay.
Adding on to that,
Top
Waltrip
10 was
also earned wins
Tommy
at the
Gale,
Spring Atlanta
Richard
race,
Petty,
the Spring
Jimmy Means,
Talladega race,
Bobby
and
Wallach,
dominating
Ricky
on the short
Rudd,
tracks as
Lake
he swept
Speed,
both
Cale
Bristol
Yarborough,
races,
Kyle
both
Petty,
Martinsville races,
Joe Milliken,
and both
Buddy Baker.
Richmond races. Despite Waltrip's dominant season,
That's
a
crazy
slump
looking back on that
towards the
because,
end
like,
allowed
the career
Bobby
Kyle
Allison
Petty's now
to
had
come
in this
from
timeline.
behind and earn his first ever NASCAR
And he was in the
Winston
42
Cup
in that race.
championship. He won the championship driving for Harry Ranier's team. Bobby Allison earned 8 wins on the season, 20 top 5s.
And this was before I
24
understood
top
ratings
10s.
better. Because,
Speaking of
yeah,
which,
Bobby Allison
Allison
and
would
Darrell
remain
Waltrip
with
just
this
kicked
team
everyone's
moving
ass
forward
that
thanks
season.
to the championship run. One breakout driver
Yep,
in
Texas World,
1981
yeah.
was Dyegard Racing's Ricky Rudd in the number 88 Gatorade Chevrolet. His wins all came on short tracks, sweeping both North Wilkesboro races and winning at Nashville. Rudd
When I
also
started
earned
81,
14 top fives,
I looked at the
21
schedule and I was
top
like,
tens,
oh, this was the
and
last time they
2
raced the
pole
Texas
awards.
World.
He would
And then
end
I
up
just
re-signing
asked the
with
others, I'm
Dyegard
like,
Racing
think we can
for
keep this track around? Like, why
1982.
not? So, yeah, we kept
Another
Texas
driver
World
that
around.
rose to
So,
the occasion was
I think
Terry
that's a track
Labonte,
that could have
driving
done
for
some really
Hagen
cool
Racing.
things if it had
The
stuck
Texas
around.
native would earn wins in the World 600 at Charlotte, as well
Yeah,
as
exactly.
The,
The
second
racing
Michigan
was so much
race
different
and
than,
the season finale at
you know, there was
Riverside.
just a certain
Labonte would also
group of
earn
people,
15 top
especially
fives
like
in 23
who just
top
had it
10s.
down and they were so dominant.
Both he and
NASCAR is
Ricky
very
Rudd
much different
look to
now,
be
where it's a lot more
championship
competitive than it was
for years to
back
come.
then.
Richard Petty also had a strong season, earning 1 win at Riverside during the summer, while collecting 14 top 5s and 20 top 10s. Petty continues on his road to potentially 200 career wins and chasing an 8th championship. Other notable winners for 1981 included Buddy Arrington getting his first career win at Michigan, Buddy Baker winning the Southern 500, Jody Ridley driving for Junie Dunleavy winning the Fall Charlotte race,
Sure I met Jody
Dave
Ridley.
Marcus taking the Atlanta Fall race. And here's a look at all of the winners for the 1981 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season, as well as the top 20 in the standings. Allison defeated Waltrip for the 1981 title by 161 points. Terry Labonte finished third, 329 points back. Ricky Rudd in fourth,
I forgot J.D.
368
McDuffie
points
finished
back.
8th in points
Richard
that
Petty
season.
in fifth, 588
I look back on it, I'm like,
points
man,
back.
that's kind of crazy.
Strong seasons for the likes of Jody Ridley, Dave Marcus, and J.D. McDuffie, as well as Buddy Arrington, as they all finished inside the top 10. However, one notable driver to point out is Dale Earnhardt, the 1980 champion, who finished 14th.
Dale.
The likes of him, Morgan Shepherd, and Benny Parsons will look to turn things around in 1982. Dale Earnhardt has already announced that he is departing the number 2 team.
Yeah,
which
this
was
is when he went to
owned
Bud
by
Moore.
Rod Osterlund, but was suddenly bought by Jim Stacy halfway through the season.
Right,
Not
'cause
to
that was
mention
the-
that Earnhardt spent the
that was
last
the
11
7
races
J.D.
of that
Stacy
season
cars that ran in
with
the
car owner
582.
Richard Childress. Earnhardt will move to Bud Moore's team for 1982, hoping to get back on track and chase more wins.
And back then, I was thinking to myself, like, what if Dale just started winning a lot with Bud Moore and just ended up, like, sticking there, you know?
As Texas World
What if went
Speedway
side of a what if?
remains on the schedule. The 2-mile oval in College Station will remain part of the Winston Cup Series.
1982.
1982 saw the debut of the Budweiser Sportsman Division, which would later become the NASCAR Busch Series. The new series would eventually become a stomping ground for future prospects.
Did you ever
in
consider
NASCAR.
keeping Ontario
The inaugural
open?
schedule had one difference
So,
compared to real life. That being
I didn't think about it back then,
the iconic quarter mile
and I've had
Bowman
thoughts,
Brace Stadium.
like, you know, what if I had kept Ontario around? It would have been a little difficult, because Riverside was like 15 miles from Ontario and Fontana, and literally, if you pull up the coordinates of both Fontana and Ontario, they're literally next door to each other.
Names such as Dale
So,
Earnhardt, Morgan Shepherd,
it would have been
Jeff
difficult
Bryant,
anyway,
and Jody Ridley.
but it's certainly something to
Sam
think back
Margott
on and
only
go,
won the first
could
race
that
of the season,
have worked?
but
Could that have
became the
happened?
inaugural champion
Especially
of the circuit,
it
while we
truly
were beginning
becoming
to
the
see future
Indianapolis to the
stars
west,
take shape.
but
Among the up-and-comers
that's
in
just
the
something
series
I-
was Danny Marshall, who made
you know,
his entrance in a NASCAR
just something
by running select
I think about
Winston
from time to
Cup
time.
races
But,
in
you know,
1981.
I still like that I
Ran
kept
the full
Texas World
season
and
went on to finish
Nashville
fifth in the
Fairgrounds and
points,
stuff like that.
all while earning 3 wins, 7 top 5s, and 11 top 10s with an average finish of 12.48. Marshall hopes to make a run at the championship in 1983. However, the biggest surprise of the season would be young driver Bubba Nissen. The 22-year-old
good old Bubba
from
Nissen.
Virginia
So,
earned 3
something I want
wins
to talk
on the
about really
season
quick.
while running all but 2 races.
So,
And would earn 6 top 5s
with Danny
and
Marshall,
14 top 10s. Nissen
I'm going to
hopes
keep it
make
brief
a
and
run for
honest.
the Busch Series title in 1983.
This was
And
an
as for
idea
as far as
that
championship season,
that
he had 5
Lefty
wins,
had
12
when he
top
was still
5s, and
helping us out
18
early
top
on.
10s with an average finish of 8.9.
He of course, had some other things that he had to focus on and left the project early on.
Twice at Martinsville.
So
and at
we
Charlotte.
decided to
Jack Ingram would finish.
we decided to see
second,
Marshall's
three
story
wins,
with New
10
Talladega
top
to
fives,
completion.
and 17
And,
top tens with an average
You know,
finish
we've
of 9.62.
I will say we have closed
In third
the
was
book on
Blake
fictional
Parsons,
drivers
who
just to
has
stay
3
realistic
wins,
to
9
things. So
top fives,
I
and
figured I'd at
14
least
top
address that
tens
really
with an
quick,
average finish of 11.
and just say, like, you know,
Here are
we
the
just
final
closed the book
standings and the
on that kind of
winners
stuff.
from the inaugural Budweiser Sportsman Division season.
What mod is this? This was, hold on, because this was this was not Aero 88. This was a different mod.
As
Give me a
previously
second here.
mentioned, the 2-mile oval in
I want to make sure I get my
Texas World Speedway
information
will
correct
remain
here.
on the NASCAR schedule
Scroll,
for many
scroll,
years to
scroll,
come. Moving over to the Winston Cup, Ricky Rudd.
It's the classic late models mod was developed by V8 Mods. And they have the 8, and if you go on NR2K3 Weebly, you'll see on there they have the 82 and 83 car sets. So hopefully I cleared some things up there.
West Series, he would start 4th and go on to finish 16th in the big race. Speaking of which, the Daytona 500 featured an upset winner for the second year in a row.
Actually, I think
James Hilton was able to hold
Bubba
on
Nissen,
and
funny
Tim Richmond
enough,
for the win, in which would mark
he was in
his
his
third
mid-20s,
and final career Winston Cup victory.
during this time, I
The
think.
47-year-old and 18-year veteran of the series had entered a second car for his own team in the number 49, and despite having little sponsorship, he took that very car to victory
Yeah, James
lane.
Hilton.
Darrell Waltrip and Bobby Allison picked up where they left off last year, as Waltrip would earn 8 wins, 21 top 5s, and 25 top 10s. Bobby Allison, meanwhile, would earn 6 wins.
In 82,
15
Bubba
top
Nissen
5s,
was only
and
22.
20 top 10s. Behind them, Terry
Enyi, I
LeBron
hope I
was
said that
beginning
right.
to
How you
become
doing?
a factor in the
So now he's like
championship hunt,
45.
as he earned 3 wins, 14 top 5s, and 20
I want to
top
say he's
10s.
pushing 40.
However, he would come up short
Let me
as
check.
the runner-up to Darrell Waltrip, the 1982 champion. This would mark the first
clicked the wrong thing.
championship victory for Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip said afterwards about how it felt great to make up for last season and how everything came together at the right time.
Yeah.
to
Going
run
into
away with the
2000, Bubba
championship.
Nissen
He
will be
also said he
41.
feels great about his
So,
team and feels confident that they
he's
can
had a
win
long,
more
good
titles
career.
in the coming
So,
years. Terry
interesting to
Labonte
see how he does
also
this
felt
upcoming
like that
season.
His team was close to winning the Winston Cup, stating, "We're very close. We have the crew, we have the equipment, and we have everything we need to make a championship victory a reality. I feel good with what Hagen has put together. A year from now, my goal is to be interviewed as the Winston Cup champion." Bobby Allison
Good
was
old
happy
Texas
that he
Terry.
finally got a championship added to his resume last season and reflected on nearly making it back-to-back. Quote, "We're in a good spot right now. We've been more successful than ever before. I'm thankful to have a championship, and it's hard to win here, but I definitely have some good years left before I decide to retire. I feel like we can win another title for sure." Dale Earnhardt, who moved over to Budmore Engineering for 1982. had
Yep,
a
that
great
is a rumor.
first
Yeah,
half of the
Dale
season,
Earnhardt
as he would
was going to
enter
go to
the
Junior
Summer
Johnson's
Daytona
team.
race second in the standings. However, he had many more
Yep,
DNFs
the
in
scene
the
vault,
second
yep.
half of the season. The 1980 champion finished the year 11th in the standings with 0 wins, 9 top 5s, and 15 top 10s. Earnhardt looked back on his 1982 season saying, quote, "We had a lot of goods and some bads. I admit I was pushing hard at times. Bud and I have discussed what went wrong, and we have a good idea on how to improve things for next season." Benny Parsons, who was driving for Richard Childress, had a rough season as he would finish 19th in the standings, despite having 2 wins, which came back-to-back at Rockingham and Darlington. He also had 7 top 5s and 9 top 10s, with an average finish of 19.87.
And I think
Some notable moments
we didn't
of
really
the
talk
season
much about,
include a win for
you
Jimmy
know,
Means
oh
at
yeah,
Dover,
Jimmy Means,
as
yeah.
well as watching a rising star in
Oops.
despite only running
My
28
headphones
of the
disconnected, I'm so
31
sorry.
races. He earned 1 win at Riverside, which was the season finale, as well as 13 top 5s and
Tim is him.
19 top 10s.
Tim is him.
And here are the winners from the 1982 Winston Cup Series season, as well.
Yeah, I was like,
Top 20 in
I
the
think we may have
standings.
talked about the idea of Dale at Junior Johnson, but only if it made sense. And then he won the 84 500, and it was just like, oh. he's staying there. 1983.
Next up is the 1983 season, as we take a look at
Just remember that I
Budweiser
created the
Sports
Wikipedia
Division
page for
schedule.
Bubba Nissen
Bowman
myself.
Gray is once again on the schedule.
Yes,
with
very
no
based.
other
Very
notable
based.
changes. Sam Ard would finish the season with 4 wins,
J.D.
14
Stacy.
top 5s, and 23 top 10s. He also had an average
I believe
finish
Mr. Jim
of
Stacy's from Kentucky, funny enough.
8.65. Another up-and-coming driver in Danny Marshall would finish 3rd in the standings with 5 wins, 12 top 5s,
Yeah.
and 23 top 10s. He entered the season finale at Martinsville as the points leader. However, he would crash out of the race, costing him a chance at championship glory. Phil Parsons had a season similar to last year, as he remained in the title hunt for most of 1983. He
How did
collected
Jimmy
3
Wings win a
wins,
race?
Those being at Richmond,
He just did.
Hickory, and
I ran the
Indianapolis
race, and that's what
Raceway
happened.
Park. He also had 8 top 5s and 20
Jimmy
top
Means,
10s.
he was.
Jack
He had
Abram
some good
finished
moments.
out the top 5 in the
He had some good
standings,
moments.
but he had a winless season while earning 8 top 5s and 22 top 10s. As we mentioned Bubba Nissen in the previous season, he quickly became a championship contender. He ended up winning 5 races, also earning 13 top 5s and 24 top 10s with an average finish of 9.6. Despite Sam Ard winning the season finale at Martinsville, in what was a close championship battle, it was Bubba Nissen scoring the Busch Series championship by just
A lot of
6
tobacco sponsorship.
points over Sam
Yeah,
Ard.
that was back then.
Here are all
Obviously,
the winners and the final standings.
a lot of things have changed.
From the 1983 Budweiser Sportsman Division season.
Man, Bubba Nissen's
Moving
just.
on to the Winston
It's been
Cup,
so
the
fascinating
biggest
because
move
it's just
for
like
1983
he came
was
out of
Cale
nowhere.
Yarborough, as he signed with Harry Ranier and his new number 22 Miller Lite Buick. Ricky Rudd continued with Dygard, while Bobby Allison and Benny Parsons remained in their rides. And here is the Winston Cup Series schedule for 1983, as there were no notable changes. The 1983 Daytona 500 was won in dominating fashion by one of the sport's all-time greats, the only driver to ever win 3 consecutive championships in NASCAR, that being Cale Yarborough. And for Yarborough, this would mark his only win of 1983, and this would also be...
Yeah, I mean, I never heard of Bubba
his
Nissen before I started
Cup
doing
Series
Sunday Night Lights,
victory.
and I sat there and I was
Bobby
like,
Allison
who
looked
the
to
heck
be
is
the
this guy? There's like
championship favorite.
hardly
Harry
any
Ranier,
information on him
number
besides
20
a
car,
crash he
but
had in
he
real
had a
life in
new challenger
1983.
coming to the fold. In his first full-time season,
So,
Dawsonville, Georgia's
I don't know,
Bill
that was just so
Elliott
cool.
stormed onto the scene. Elliott had the points lead and the Winston Cup championship in his sights heading into the final race at Riverside. But then, during the course of the race, heartbreak would strike. Dale Earnhardt is currently leading, Terry Labonte chasing him down in second, and Bill Elliott's doing all he can to hold out Bobby Allison. They're side by side for a moment, but it looks like Elliott is trying to pull away. However, now I'm hearing reports that Bill Elliott could be having some sort of issue. Bill Elliott has been starting to lose spots. There may be something wrong with his number 9 Ford, and indeed there is. Elliott has come down with a major mechanical issue. He came in today as the points leader, and most likely he will lose the championship at this point. Absolute devastation for Bill Elliott, and now all eyes are on Bobby Allison, who is now in the cusp of winning his second championship.
I wonder who the next
in
Bubba
3
Nissen will
years.
be. I
Bobby
don't know.
Allison
It's hard
will
to
go on
say.
to pick up his second Winston Cup Series championship in 3 years with 5 wins, 14 top 5s, and
Yeah, that was
24 top 10s.
True, the first time a
He was
championship
also
got
the
decided
only
in
driver
dramatic
to have
fashion.
an average
Well,
finishing position in the
there
single
was also the
digits
Busch Series thing,
with a
but
9.35
yeah, I was just like, oh
average
man,
finish.
what happened to
As
Bill?
for Elliott, he earned 4 wins, 14 top 5s, and 21 top 10s.
Yeah, he just
Darrell
kind
Waltrip
of
had another
exploded
strong
onto the
season
scene in
with
'83.
7 wins, 16 top 5s, and 17 top 10s. However, he only finished third in the standings after an inconsistent end to the season.
Excuse me.
Also of note was the Spring Atlanta race, which had a first career win. A young driver by the name of Mark Martin kick-started his career with a win for
Yeah,
James
Mark Martin's
Stacy's
career
number 2
changed
car.
a lot just because
He
of
would go
him
on to
picking up
replace
that win.
Dale Earnhardt in the Bud Moore number 15 next year. Martin would finish out 1983 by finishing an impressive.
I think I chose Benny
standings,
Parsons just because
adding on 4 top
Ricky
5s,
Rudd
11 top 10s,
was still in the
as
88.
well as 5
and that was just
pole
kind of the decision I made
Martin
there.
would finish
I'm trying to remember how
behind
that all
Dale Earnhardt
how that
in
all
the
panned out
standings
back then.
as Earnhardt improved in 1983. He won 3 races, 2 of which were back-to-back at the second Talladega and Michigan races.
Yes, Dale
Then
Earnhardt
again
drove it forward
at
at
the
one
second
point.
Richmond race. He also earned 6 top 5s and 13 top 10s. And here's a final look at the standings and the list of winners from the 1983
Dick
Winston
Brooks,
Cup
man.
season.
Oh yeah, I forgot Trevor Boyes won at Michigan. I had some over the seasons. I've had some interesting winners at Michigan, just for whatever reason. All right, say it with me. Say it with me. Literally 1984.
Moving on now to 1984 as we take a look at the Busch Grand National Series. The most
What silly
notable
season moves in
change
SNL
is that
80s
the
did you
schedule
consider that
scales
were
back
scrapped?
From 35 to
Oh,
29
man.
races. The season started off with an
I don't really
upset
know.
winner at Daytona as dirt racing star Sammy Swindell
That's a
took
good
on the
question.
high banks of Daytona.
That's something I'm gonna
and
have to
picked
look
up the
back
win.
on and see if I
This
remember
would mark
anything.
the first and only win
If I had
of his
any
Busch Series
old ideas
career.
that we scrapped.
Danny Marshall would finish runner-up in the standings as he finished the season
That's a
with
good
2
question.
wins,
I'm not entirely
16
sure.
top 5s and 20 top 10s, just 70 points back. Sam Ard and Tommy Houston both had 4 wins apiece on the season.
Or as Mike
they
Joy would
finished
say,
third and
1984.
fourth in the point standings. Ard won races at the first Richmond race, the first Orange County race, the first South Boston race, and the second Langley race. Houston, meanwhile, won both Hickory races, Dover, and the second Orange County race. Bubba Nissen continued to put on a show and dominate the circuit to win the championship.
Oh yeah.
This would
Yeah,
convince
Sammy
him to
Swindell
move up to
winning
the
at
Winston
Daytona
Cup
was
Series
something.
For 1985.
I was
He would
like,
cap
huh.
off the season with
Isn't
3
he like a-
wins,
I was like, he's a
13
really
top
good dirt
5s,
racer.
and
That's quite
21
interesting.
top 10s with an average finish of
Is that where you gotta do the meme?
8.31.
Dirt racer shows
Here are
up to
the final
Daytona,
standings
wins,
and the
refuses to
winners of the
elaborate,
1984
leaves.
Busch
I'm
Grand
just kidding.
National Series season.
All right.
After a 3-year absence, the International Race of Champions, also known as
That's
IROC,
right.
made a return.
This is when
to
IROC
racing.
got
The
introduced in the
season
timeline.
consisted of the season opening and ending at Michigan, with Cleveland and Talladega.
What state
in
is Orange
between.
County in again?
Dale Earnhardt won at
I know
Michigan,
it's also
while
known
Kenny
as
Yarborough won at Cleveland and
Rogemont or
Talladega,
Rogemont.
and Benny Parsons won
Um,
the second Michigan race.
I think it's
Cale
in
Yarborough would end up
yeah.
taking home the IROC championship for
Rogemont, North
1984
Carolina.
by just 9 points over Benny
because,
Parsons.
you know, North Carolina. Yeah, that's where it was. It was in North Carolina.
Another
I tried to
track
find
whose fate changes
me-
is the Nashville
I tried to find music that
Fairgrounds
was
Speedway,
fitting to the
as
80s.
they will host the Winston Cup Series beyond 1984. Though with a smaller field than other tracks, this is the only major change on the Winston Cup schedule. Some major silly season changes involved, as mentioned earlier, Dale Earnhardt moving over to Richard Childress
Dale.
Racing, bringing Wrangler over with him as a sponsor, while Mark Martin
Is it
takes
gone
over
now?
Bud Moore's number 15
Ooh.
forward.
Is
Bobby
it?
Allison
I didn't
is
see
still
that
with
part.
Harry
Hold on.
Vernier's team, while Ricky Rudd is with Dygard. Speaking of which, that team partnered up with Cliff Stewart to
Let me
open
see.
a second ride for up-and-comer Rusty Wallace in the number 89 Burger King car.
I think it is still open.
1984 featured one of the most iconic
Yep,
finishes in
it is still
Daytona
around. They got a
500
website and
when
everything.
Dale Earnhardt and
Track's still
Ricky
around.
Rudd ended up in a situation where they had to race back to the line that would determine the outcome of the race. The two drivers were about to enter the history books together. We are getting down to it
This
now. We
was
are coming
truly
to
a
the line
cinematic
with
moment.
2 laps to go, and it is down to Earnhardt and Rudd to win the Great American Race, and we got a crash in the back. Huge crash in the back. The yellow is out, and the 2 leaders are going to race it back. This is for the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, the biggest race on the schedule. On board with Rudd, he goes to the inside of Earnhardt, down the back straightaway.
And then I sat there and thought, dear God, is
Who's
Rudd going to steal it, or
be?
is Dale going to win a 500
Ricky
already?
Rudd is trying everything he can. He gets to the quarter panel of the 3, coming off turn 4. Side by side. This is for the win. Earnhardt, Rudd, back to the line. Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt has won the Daytona 500 in a thrilling
I remember just
coming
sitting there in
the
awe,
final
like,
lap,
oh
which
my
is
God.
yellow, and barring any issues,
I was like,
Dale
oh my
Earnhardt
God.
will win this
Dale
race.
Earnhardt just won a 500 in 1984. So we
Checkered
didn't have to
flag
wait.
waves, and it
We didn't
is
have to wait
official.
20
Dale
years or
Earnhardt
whatever.
has won the Daytona 500 for 1984. No
Oh,
doubt
man.
about it. This was the most thrilling finish in Daytona 500
This was his first of
history.
3
And
500
if
wins.
the 1980 championship
Which
didn't
is
do
crazy.
it already, Dale Earnhardt is certainly on the map now. He's already got the sport's 2 biggest prizes to his name, and this is only his 5th Winston Cup season. Time will tell how high he'll climb the ranks. The 1984 Winston Cup Championship went to a rising star from the Lone Star State named Terry Labonte,
Texas
driving
Terry.
for Billy Hagan. He went on to take home 8 wins, 17 top 5s, and 25 top 10s. Labonte's wins involved the first Martinsville race, both
And I've been
Nashville
using
races,
free cam.
both Riverside races.
When I use free cam,
back-to-back wins in
I
the
think
summer
I've
at
even from
Talladega,
then, I
Michigan,
think I've improved
as well as the
a little
Southern
more since then as I
500.
try to
He would
understand the
win it over
program
Harry
more and
Gant
more.
by just 40 points. Gant won 6 races in
Harry
1984
Gant.
in what was a career year for the 44-year-old. He also earned 18 top 5s and 23 top 10s. His average finishing position was almost dead even with champion Terry Labonte. Dale Earnhardt would finish 3rd in the standings as he collected another win at the Spring Atlanta
Oh,
race.
the foreshadowing in that
He
scene
and
right
Richard
there.
Childress were now firing
Rusty's
on all
89 car
cylinders
back there.
as the number 3 team would earn 13 top 5s and 24
Just the
top
domination
10s.
those two would
What was a
bring.
very strong season for them. Bobby Allison and Ricky Rudd would finish 4th and 5th in the standings as Allison earned 3 wins, those coming at the first Dover race, the second Bristol race, and Texas World. The biggest upset of the season happened at Pocono when Dick Brooks brought home his first win since 1973 driving for Junie Dunlevy.
Oh, man.
And this would be the second and
Yeah.
final career victory for Brooks.
Dick Brooks, yeah, that's right.
Another notable moment was the Fall Richmond race, as Jeff Bodine was driving for a new team by the name of All-Star Racing, a team owned by car dealer magnate Rick Hendrick. There were fears in the team's shop that they were not going to make it, but Hendrick persisted and kept his faith. White flag in the air for
So
Jeff
instead of
Bodine.
Martinsville, it was
All-Star Racing.
it
this
was
new
Richmond
team
where
owned by Rick Hendrick.
Rick Hendrick got their
He's
first
been a
win.
little concerned about the future of his team. He didn't know if he was going to be able to keep the shop going, but looks like he's going to now with this victory. And off turn 4, this will certainly be something special. Jeff Bodine wins at Richmond for car owner Rick Hendrick and their first ever win for
Where it
that
all
number
started.
5 team. And I'm sure this will be the first of many for this team.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that with Gant, because I know he was a rookie at 40.
Bodine would go on to finish 9th in the standings. With the Richmond win, he added on 7 top 5s and 17 top 10s.
Oh, man, Ken Squire
This helped
calling
Rick
the
Hendrick's
84
team
500
gain
in this
a ton of
timeline.
momentum
That'd be
going
wild.
into 1985. Here are the winners and the final standings from the 1984 Winston Cup Series
That's right.
season.
Jimmy Means picked up another win. That's right. All right, somebody call Bowling for Soup, 1985.
Now heading into the 1985 season, we start off by taking a look at the Busch Series schedule for 1985, where Bubba Nissen was the king for the last couple of seasons. One notable track that was added was Salem Speedway in Salem, Indiana.
Yeah, I
With
think
Bobby
around this
Nixon
time,
moving on to the Winston
I was
Cup,
just experimenting
Rome had a
with
new king.
adding
As
different
Danny
kinds of
Marshall
tracks,
finally broke out onto the scene
and
as he would earn 5 wins,
adding different kinds of
13
tracks
top fives, and
in the Busch
22
series. I
top
know I
10s,
experimented with
with
Bowman
an
Gray
average
at one
finishing
point,
position of
and then
7.48.
adding Salem
Marshall
for a
was
while.
the Busch Series
But, yeah.
champion for 1985 as he held off Sam Ard by 76 points. Ard himself had another great season, despite coming up short once again of a second championship. He earned 4 wins, 14 top 5s, and 21
Mike Joy calling
top
the
10s.
97 500
Some
with
notable
Kelly or
moments
98
this
with
season
Kowicki.
included
That'd be cool.
L.D. Ottinger winning the season
It'd be cool to
opener at
imagine
Daytona. This
how
was
that call
his
would have
second
gone.
career win as he
How
earned
that
his
call would have
first
gone.
at Rockingham a season ago. And here are all the winners from the 1985 Busch Series season, as well as the final standings.
That's right. I had a
In the
couple
world
of
of IROC,
dirt
the
tracks on there
NASCAR
too.
stars had a rather down year. Darrell Waltrip did win the final race of the season at Michigan, but the previous 3
Michigan.
races were won by Bobby Rahal at Daytona, Mario Andretti at Mid-Ohio, and Derek Bell winning at Talladega.
Derek Bell, that's
Speaking of which, Derek Bell would be the one to win the IROC championship for 1985, scoring
That
this
was
one
probably
for the
that's
World
probably been like the
Endurance
most obscure
Championship.
IROC champion that we've
As we
had.
take a look at the winners once again, it was a close championship battle as Terry Labonte lost it out by 3 points, John Watson by just 4 points.
Yeah.
In the 1985 Daytona
Tom
500,
Ploy.
there was a restart with 3 laps to go as Darrell Waltrip was trying to hold back Buddy Baker, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, and Bobby Hillin Jr. to finally win the Great American Race. And in the end, Darrell Waltrip was
Above a
able
Nissan
to check
diecast
off
car.
a win that he was long
It's always been a
seeking for
fantasy,
at the
like, if I could
beginning
make
of 1985,
die-casts
as he would
of
go on
certain
to
SNL
win
cars.
the Daytona 500 with Junior Johnson. One notable upset during the Winston
Derek
Cup
Bell was
season
a. I know he
took
was a
place
British
at the
race car
first
driver.
Michigan race
think he
as
ran at Le Mans.
longtime veteran J.D. McDuffie
Oh, he ran
found
an
a
F1
way
too. Okay.
into the lead and would score his first career Winston Cup victory.
Yep.
This would
Where
also
J.D.
be
McDuffie
the
got his only win.
of
Yeah.
McDuffie's career. The upsets, however, were not done, as Ron Bouchard won the Firecracker 400 at Daytona in the very next race. And the race after that saw Sam Ard, making part-time Cup starts that season, win at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Ard won this race holding off Darrell Waltrip and Bill Elliott.
Yeah,
This
that
would be
one
the
was
only
wild
Cup
because
win of his
when I
career.
did that race, I sat
As
there and
summer
went,
of
"How the heck did
1985
Sam
was
Ard win a
quickly
Cup
becoming the
race?"
Summer of the underdogs.
Yeah, summer of '85 was
Alpine would
wild,
also earn
honestly.
the first and second wins of his career as he won the
I think it was just
Atlanta
because
race
of his
and the
age with
first
Sam
Pocono
Ard.
race.
I know he
As
was
for
already up there
heroes to
in
the
his
top,
40s, I think.
We had a young, well-deserved
Yep, that's what it says here.
first-time
Derek
champion.
Bell won the 24-hour Le
After
Mans
suffering
5
heartbreak
times.
2
That's
seasons ago
amazing.
and missing out on the championship, Bill Elliott was able to claw his way back.
That's right.
To
This is
score
when
the
Bill Elliott
Winston
won his
Cup
first title.
championship for 1985 with Melling Racing. Elliott beat out Darrell Waltrip by 129 points to score the title. Elliott had 6 wins with 17 top 5s
Awesome Bill
and
from
21
Dawsonville.
top 10s. Elliott would earn wins at the first Richmond race, the first North Wilkesboro race, the first Talladega race, the second Pocono race, the second Dover race, and the second Charlotte race. Daytona 500 winner Darrell Waltrip would finish second in the standings, earning 3 wins, 13 top 5s, and 22 top 10s. Waltrip keeps coming up close, and if things had played out differently for him,
It's kind of crazy
he could have
that
become a
DW
four-time champion.
Yeah, because like
For now,
he only won one
only
title,
has one.
and it's crazy
Jeff
that he
Bodine
could have
and
won like
Motorsports had a
2, 3, or
solid
4.
and consistent 1985 season. Despite not winning a race, Bodine had 9 top 5s and 20 top 10s and would finish third in the point standings. Another breakout driver this year hailed from the Alabama gang, Neil Bonnet. Bonnet collected 4 wins while earning 13 top
Yeah, like I said,
5s
85
and
was such a weird
18
season.
top 10s. Bonnet hopes to pick up where he left off in 1986 and contend for the championship.
Oh well, still it's pretty cool.
Bubba Nissen ran his first full season in 1985, and he was able to keep the car in one piece for most of the races.
One
He would
piece.
finish 21st in the standings with 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and an average finish of 18.79. He looks to build from his rookie season and improve in 1986. Here's a look at the final results and standings from the 1985
Yeah, but
NASCAR
like that
Winston
weird
Cup
stretch.
season.
McDuffie, Bouchard, Ard.
Tim
was-
Richmond and Mark Martin both had solid
It was
seasons
just,
as they finished top 10 in the standings.
A weird set of
Bobby
winners there.
Allison and Terry Labonte had down years, finishing 11th and 12th.
Yeah, it is
Cap
interesting to
off
think about with DW.
1985, This year also brought with it the inaugural NASCAR All-Star Race, known as the Winston. The race was held at Charlotte Motor Speedway and was won by Tim Richmond, driving
Tim is
for
him.
Raymond Beadle as he held off Darrell Waltrip for the win and picked up a massive paycheck.
Tim is him. 1986.
We now move into the second half of the 1980s as we take a look at the Busch Series schedule. The most notable change was NASCAR deciding to add a road course to the series, Road Atlanta in northern Georgia. Sam Ard had 1 win, 14 top 5s, and 18 top 10s, while third place Tommy Houston had 3 wins, 14 top 5s, and 16 top 10s. 1983 and 1984 saw back-to-back Busch Series champions, and we witnessed it again for 1985 and 1986, as Danny Marshall would go on to earn the championship. Not only did he win it, he dominated, winning the championship with an average finishing position of 7.32 and winning it by 330 points over Sam Ard. Marshall also had 4 wins, 15 top 5s, and 25 top 10s, as he finished in the top 10 in all but 6 races. And here are all the winners from the 1986 Busch Series season, as well as the top 10 in the final standings. With Danny Marshall's success, his plans will be to run a full season in the Winston Cup in 1987.
This was Dale's
Just
second.
a year after a sports
Winston
car
Cup
driver
championship.
won the IROC title, it was a battle between stars from NASCAR and open wheel, as Kelly Yarborough represented NASCAR well, winning at Daytona and then again 2 races later at Talladega. The second race at Mid-Ohio and the final race at Watkins Glen were won by the open-wheel drivers, Al Unser winning at Mid-Ohio and Bobby Rahal winning at Watkins Glen. Despite that, it was Kelly Yarborough winning the 1986 IROC Championship.
Hurley Haywood, Rick Mears.
Moving over to the Winston Cup Series, one notable change to note with Silly Season involved Davey Allison, the son of Bobby Allison, who was going to spend 1 season working on his craft with the Sattler Brothers number 95 team and contending for Rookie of the Year. Nothing else changes
Davey.
in terms of the 1986 schedule. The 1986 Daytona 500 saw
this
an
was a
exciting
fun
battle
finish,
to the
too.
checkered flag between Jeff Bodine of Hendrick Motorsports and Hagen Racing's Terry Labonte. They came off turn 4 side by side as Jeff Bodine just barely beat Labonte to the line to give Rick Hendrick his first Daytona 500. Hendrick's team was quickly becoming one of the fastest growing teams in the sport as Bodine looks to chase down the championship. For the second
Sadler Brothers
time
survived
in
for a
3
while.
years, our leaders were
well
side
into the
by
90s.
side, going for the win.
In real life,
at
they were
Daytona.
racing well into the 2000s as well.
Jody Ridley would surprise the NASCAR world again in 1986 as he earned his second career win at the Spring Dover race, which also locked him into the second annual All-Star race. Richard Petty was still looking strong in 1986 as he would finish 8th in the final standings, and while getting 6 top 5s and 14 top 10s, he would earn what would be his 199th career Winston Cup victory at the 12th race of the season at Riverside. Now, the King sets his eyes on getting number 200 in 1987. Tim Richmond had a huge season in 1986 as he would move over to Rick Hendrick's
Yeah, at least
team.
I'm pretty sure
Richmond
Sadler
won
Brothers,
7 times
they lasted
in
quite a while.
1986, as he quickly became
if I can
a
look
very
that up real
popular
fast.
driver and a threat for the championship. He also earned 13 top
Sadler
5s and
Brothers.
16 top 10s. He would finish third in the standings as he was in reach of the championship.
Opened in
But
'84,
he had a
closed
few
in
bad races towards the
2008.
end of the season that would ultimately cost him. Speaking of the championship, Dale Earnhardt, the man dubbed as the Intimidator,
Owned by Earl
would
and
go on
Chuck
to
Sadler.
win his second NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship.
3 for Dale.
And the first championship for Richard Childress. Earnhardt, like Richmond,
So yeah, they
was
ran in
quickly
Cup
becoming one of the
from
most popular
'84
drivers
all
in
the way
Winston
to
Cup Series.
2001.
Earnhardt won 7
They
races,
DNQ'd
just
the
like
01
Richmond,
Brickyard 400
earning
with Ed
15
Barrier.
top 5s and 18 top 10s, as well as 5 pole awards. Bobby Hillin Jr. also had an impressive season, and while he didn't find victory lane, he had 7 top 5s and 17 top 10s on his way to a 5th place finish in the standings. With that, here are the list of winners and the final point standings.
What series were they
from the
running in 08?
1986
I would
season.
assume.
As previously mentioned,
I'm gonna assume
Bobby
the-
Hillin Jr.
the,
had an impressive season.
I'm gonna assume the
finishing
Busch
5th
series,
in
I
the
think.
final standings. Meanwhile, drivers like Mark Martin and Neil
Let me
Bonnet
see.
are looking for improvement, while Bubba Nissen did slightly improve from his rookie season. And speaking of
Yeah,
rookies,
pretty much like-
Davey
yeah.
Allison finishes
And Arca.
22nd
Okay,
in the
Arca.
standings.
Yeah, 2007, they last ran in ARCA with Blake Feast and Brian Cons.
Going into 1987,
87
here's a
was
look
like
at
the
Busch
the
Series schedule.
we got out of the
One
prologue
notable
phase, and this is
addition
where like we had the
14th
actual
race of the season
start.
taking place at Indiana Speedway. This creates a 3-race stretch across the state of Indiana that also consists of Salem and IRP. A couple of things to note for silly season: Sam Ard is still in the Busch Series and chasing a second championship, while Brett Bodine.
I don't
is
think
driving
they were
for Ray
related to
Hendrick
Hermie
in
and
the Busch
Elliott. It
Series.
doesn't say anywhere. I don't think they
Rodney
were
Combs
related.
and Larry Pearson led the field to the green flag to begin the season.
Rodney Combs.
There was a wreck on lap 32 as Glenn Jarrett slid up the track into Ronnie Silver, who was in third at the time. Then on lap 48, the second caution came out when Larry Pollard got into Morgan Shepherd as he attempted to make a pass. This caused a pileup involving Bobby Allison and Mike Alexander. Then Alexander hit the 97 of Morgan Shepherd, causing him to go on his roof. There was a long green flag run to the finish afterwards.
Wasn't this
as
Elton Sawyer?
Yeah, would make the pass
That's
on
right.
Jack Ingram coming.
Patty
to the
Moyes'
checkered
husband, by the
flag,
way.
and he would take the win at Daytona. In the 15th race,
Yeah, that
of the
42
season at
car was something I
IRP,
slapped together
Frank
'cause
Adcox would take
there were
over
some
Danny
cars that just
Marshall's
were never
Busch
made
Series
for certain
ride,
drivers,
And
so-
in his very first race
Yeah.
in that car, he took full advantage of the opportunity and would go on to get his first career Busch Series victory. Adcox would also go on to earn wins at Oxford, South Boston,
Oxford.
and Dover. At Road Atlanta, it was a wild race, and in the end, we had one of the biggest upsets of the season, with John Linville picking up what would be the only win of his
I
career.
believe, if I'm correct,
There was really one driver
that is
took over the
Delana
Busch
Harvick's
Series in
father, I
1987
believe.
and dominated. That driver was Larry Pearson, as he scored 9 wins while also earning
Both from the
15
pair.
top
Yeah.
5s and 21 top 10s. Pearson won the title over Sam Ard, who comes close yet again, backed by 127 points. Ard didn't have any wins on the season, surprisingly enough, but he had 17 top 5s and 22 top 10s.
That's right, because Ard,
Jimmy Hensley,
because I
driving
think
for
in
his
real
family
life,
team,
I know Ard at
finished
one
third
point
in
had a
standings
career-ending
with 2
crash
wins, 11 top
sometime in the
5s,
mid-'80s.
and 19 top 10s.
And then we kept him
Here's
racing
a
for a
look
little
at the
while
final
longer.
standings and all the winners from the 1987 Busch Series season. Other drivers to note include Brett Bodine and Dale Jarrett.
I know what
rounding
the
out
song
the
is
top
like,
5 in points,
Miami
as well as
1984 or
Mark
something like
Martin having
that.
A strong year, as well as Brad Teague.
I always thought that song was catchy.
To start off,
I
with
try
the
to, like I said, I try to find
we
songs
saw a
that are
clean
fitting
green
to
flag race at
the times.
Daytona that was won by Jeff Bodine, who had just won the Daytona 500 the season before. Bodine would hold off Bill Elliott and Darrell Waltrip
John Linville?
for the win. In the next race at Mid Ohio, Bobby Rahal dominated on the 2.4
I'll type it in
mile
chat.
road course as he went on to win over Michael Andretti
Basically, it's
and Al
typed
Unser Jr.
like
Then at Michigan,
that.
Al Unser Sr. had taken the
Hopefully
lead
that
coming
helps.
to the white flag. But then Dale Earnhardt took the lead from him in turns 1 and 2, and it was the Intimidator holding off the Unsers for the win. Bobby Rahal had a 4-point lead over Jeff Bodine heading into the final race at Watkins Glen. And the one to prevail was Jeff Bodine, as he held off a charging Al Unser Jr. to win the race as well as the IROC Championship.
I met Jeff
Bobby
Bodine once
Rahal
before.
would fall to third in the standings, back by 17 points, and Al Unser Jr.
It's kind of fun looking back on all
runner-up,
this and
just
remembering
11
everything that
points
happened
out
and
of the championship.
how everything panned out the way it did.
Here is the schedule for the 1987 Winston Cup Series. There are no major changes, but note the asterisk by
Gotcha.
the second Riverside race. That spot on the schedule is notable. We'll talk about why in a moment. Some silly season changes that came in for 1987 involved the growth of Hendrick Motorsports. Rick Hendrick opened 2 new teams for this season as Terry Labonte departed from Hagen Racing to drive the number 17 Tide Chevrolet.
That's right, I had Terry go
Jeff
to the
Bodine
17.
remained in the number 5, and Tim Richmond remained in the number 25 Folger Chevrolet. Hendrick also opened a 4th car for veteran Benny Parsons, as he was in the twilight of his racing career. Because Terry Labonte is at Hendrick, Darrell Waltrip signed an extension to continue
He stayed
driving
with
for
Junior
Junior
Johnson. Yeah.
As mentioned before, Daniel Marshall would attempt the full Winston Cup season, and instead of driving the number 88, since Ricky Rudd is still at Dyguard, Buddy Baker is in the 86. Davey Allison moved over to Harry Ranier's number 28 and was hoping to find the same kind of success that his father had in that car.
Once again,
Bobby
Davey Allison has
meanwhile,
had quite a
moved to
weird
the
career
Scovola
in
Brothers
Sunday Night
number
Lights.
22 machine, and Kel Yarbrough is now driving for his own team, while Sterling Marlin replaced Terry Labonte in the number 44 for Hagen Racing. And lastly, Terry Schoonover moves up to the Winston Cup Series after competing in ARCA for the last few years. Schoonover started 1987 driving for his own team and in search of sponsorship.
Terry Schoonover.
The 1987 Daytona 500 came down to 3 drivers in particular: Buddy Baker, Ken Schrader, and Bill Elliott. While Baker and Schrader had the strongest cars, it was the Melling Racing number 9 Ford that had a huge surge in the closing laps.
'cause I think I remember,
and
like,
would hold off the
streaming.
90 and the 86
I think I
to
remember
win
I
the
streamed
Daytona
this race
500.
live.
This is Bill Elliott's first and currently only Daytona 500 victory. Danny Marshall,
Awesome, Bill.
who as mentioned earlier was scheduled to run the entire Winston Cup schedule, was injured in a crash while practicing at Riverside. He would miss the rest of the season. With that, he tapped for Lake Speed to take over his number 85
You know what's funny? When we
Speed
initially
decided
did
to
that,
keep his team afloat,
I didn't realize
he
how
brought in
like
Terry
dangerous of a
Schoonover,
place
who
Riverside
spent the
was
last few
for the
years
longest
running
time.
strong in ARCA,
Because I know like there
was
were like
attempting the Winston
quite a
Cup
few
schedule with
bad
his
wrecks
own
and
team.
fatalities there over the
As
years.
mentioned earlier, Grant Adcox took over the Busch Series car, and after
So
winning
I
his
think that was a
debut,
storyline
he would drive it
idea
for the rest
that
of the season.
at the time Lefty had,
As for
and
Riverside, they and
went with
NASCAR
that and
agreed for the
just
track
kind of
to
making an
undergo
excuse
renovations,
to create a
both for
storyline
safety
that
and for its facilities
explains why
following
Riverside
Marshall's
stays
injury.
in this
The
timeline
second
and why it
Riverside
sticks
race
around.
had a unique substitute, being hosted on the Texas World Speedway road course. That race was won by Kyle Petty. Riverside would return for 1988 and
I
beyond.
remember running that race.
The 4th race of the season at Atlanta marked a very special and important milestone for one driver in particular. That driver was the king himself, Richard Petty. Petty had 199 career wins heading into 1987 and was looking for that elusive number 200. Atlanta.
I remember
was the
for a
day
while I was
Petty
getting
broke
worried. I
free.
was like, is Petty going to
Petty
hit
would
it?
lead
I don't want him
most
to end
of
his
the
career with
second half
199
and
wins.
Close out his 200th Winston Cup victory in front of a packed house. Not only that, but in the first Michigan race, Petty would once
Then he gets his
again
201st
find
win, and I'm like,
out front
oh,
late and would
okay.
extend his record with a 201st
Excuse me.
Winston Cup victory. Bubba Nissen, the feel-good story from the Busch Series, finally shined in the spotlight in the Winston Cup, as in the 12th race of the season at Pocono, he had to hold off several top teams.
And 9 years later, he would be a Winston Cup champion.
Winston Cup victory. During the summer, Tim Richmond announced that he would be taking a break from racing. He was committed to returning.
And this was another storyline
a full-time seat would await him.
You know,
even if Richmond
justified
took
for
his
Tim
time.
Richmond to stay around too.
Richmond said that weekend, quote, "I had a bit of a health scare recently, and I want to take the time behind the scenes to ensure that my career is as long and successful as possible. I love NASCAR, and I'm so thankful that Hendrick is prepared to welcome me back as soon as I am at full strength." Rick Hendrick also added to the conversation, saying, quote, "Tim has been one of the most electrifying drivers I've ever seen.
Again,
and has done nothing
Tim
but
is
win
him.
with his team since joining us last season. I want him to do what's best for him, and when he's ready, there will be a ride ready for him, and we will make sure he is 100%
It's
ready."
honestly kind of cool that like more people
In
know
the
about Bubba
meantime,
Missing just
Jimmy
because
Means
of
would get an
this series.
opportunity to drive for Rick Hendrick for the remainder of the season. Terry Labonte went on to earn a win at Watkins Glen in the 19th race of the season, but that wasn't the only story. Hendrick Motorsports entered an additional car for Paul Newman, who has a major passion for racing. The Hollywood actor and sports car racer would drive the number 51 car, as he would surprise many, finishing in 4th. Newman said afterward, with a big smile, that he had a blast and thanked Rick Hendrick for the opportunity. At the
Well, I
end of
know
the
it was
season,
like,
it came down
you
to
know,
Dale Earnhardt
Tim
chasing
Richmond
his
had
third title,
HIV,
Terry Labonte
and it was
chasing
kind of
his
like
second.
instead
Earnhardt
he
had
has a health scare
71-point lead over Labonte, and for
revolving
most of the
that,
race,
and he
was
goes,
in a good
okay,
spot
I need to
clinch
kind
the
of figure some
championship.
things out in my life,
But that was
and then
until
once I'm
one
ready,
point in the race,
I'll get back
when
behind the
Jeff
wheel.
Bodine got into the number 3, triggering a wreck that would take Earnhardt out of the race and out of contention for the championship. This major blunder
I still
would
remember sitting there
benefit
going,
Bodine's teammate, Terry
oh my God,
Labonte,
Jeff Bodine just helped his
who would
teammate
go on
win
to
the
take
title.
Winston Cup
Team
championship
orders?
for 1987. Labonte won it by 51 points over Earnhardt, and to add on to his championship resume, he had 7 wins, 15 top 5s, and 21 top 10s.
I could not believe when
Earnhardt,
that happened.
meanwhile, would go on to have 6 wins.
Jimmy
17 top
Means
5s,
actually
and 20
ran
top 10s.
one race with
Bill
Hendrick in
Elliott
real life,
would also
subbing
have a
for
great
Richmond,
season,
and
as
also
finished
because he
third
had a
in
couple
points,
wins at that
earning
point.
7 wins,
It was just kind of
13
like,
top 5s,
let's give
and
Jimmy Means a
21
chance,
top
you know,
10s.
let's see what he does
Looking back on
more
the
in
season,
Hendrick equipment. So it
Labonte,
just
Earnhardt, and Elliott
that's what we
were
decided to go
considered
with.
the big 3 of that season. With that, here are all the winners and the final standings.
Jeff from Fork of the Road must have been on the 5 crew.
1987 Winston Cup season. As you can see, both Kyle
Oh, gosh.
and Richard Petty finished top
Just
10 in
imagine.
the standings. As you can see, Rusty Wallace and Jeff Bodine
It's like,
finishing 11th
Jeff, did you
and
tell
12th in the
did you
standings.
tell Jeff to wreck the
And
3?
one last thing
Oh,
to know,
no,
Davey
Bill.
Allison continues to struggle.
1988.
Some of the new changes in the Busch Series schedule include the Illinois State Fairgrounds and a new road course date as the Busch Series went west to the
How did he
newly
do in his
renovated
races
Riverside.
replacing Richmond?
That will also make a return to the Cup
He
schedule.
didn't
Other new
he didn't
tracks
set the
that
world on
debuted
fire,
this
but he had some good
season are
moments.
Nazareth Speedway in Pennsylvania.
He shined in the spotlight
and
from time to
Louisville
time.
Motor Speedway. In terms of silly season, Sam Ard is back in the number 00 machine, while modified legend
check
Richie
something.
Evans will be teaming up with B.R. DeWitt to make a run at the Busch Series Championship. Jimmy Hensley will continue racing for his family team in the number 63, and Grant Adcox also went full-time in the Busch Series for the Marshall number 85.
Yeah, it's amazing how quick
Richie Evans went on to make a statement early
Terry
on in the
Labonte
season
won his
as
2
he
titles
earned
already.
his first
I thought
career
for a
Busch
while,
Series
like,
win
oh, could Terry
at
win a 3rd or
Darlington.
4th title? But
In the very next
just never
race,
came to be.
Danny Marshall would make a return to racing. He would run solid for most of the race, but fell back to 29th. Jimmy Hensley went on to pick up the win. Then, one race later, Marshall would pick up the win at Langley, beating defending champion Larry Pearson. Marshall would go on to earn 4 more wins on the season, those being at IRP, Louisville, South Boston, and Bristol. A young driver began his rise to stardom in
Robbie
1988,
Moroso.
that being Rob Moroso, as the 20-year-old Connecticut driver earned his first win at Bowman Gray late in the season. Moroso would end up with 8 top 5s and 19 top 10s with an average finish of 11.71. Moroso was just 47 points out of the championship as he finished runner-up. Mike Alexander finished third in the standings as he had a strong season,
that's right,
earning 3 wins, 10 top 5s, and 19 top 10s. He finished third in the points, just 54 points back from the championship. As for the champion, it was a surprising one in the form of Richie Evans. Evans made the move to go racing in the Busch Series, and he made it all worth his while, as Evans would win 2 races.
Did you ever consider having Richie Evans run more races in Busch and Cup?
16 top 10s with an average finish of 11.
I did, and I know I had some run a few. I know I had him run a few Cup races,
that cost him a chance at the championship.
I know he was also kind of getting up there in age too.
6 races while earning
Rob
11
Moroso,
top 5s and 15 top 10s.
I believe he was just driving for his
Sam
father,
Martin had 2 wins,
even in
8
the Busch
top
Series. I'm
5s
pretty
and
confident
15 top 10s,
because I think he
finishing
drove for his
9th in the
father, and then they
standings.
went racing
And
in
here are
Cup
all the winners
in 1990.
the final standings from the 1988 Busch Series season.
Oh yeah, I remember having Illinois State Fairgrounds on there.
Moving over to IROC, Dale Earnhardt kicked off the 4-race season, holding off Al Unser and Bobby Rahal to win at Daytona. Then the start.
I'd have to go back and check, but I know he ran some Cup races.
It ended up being a
It was just
showdown between IMSA
making the
drivers
start from
Chip Robinson
then and there,
and Al Halbert.
running
Sports car drivers reigned supreme.
running
in this
mainly the
race
short tracks.
as Al Halbert picked up the win.
I'd have to go back and check how he did.
Race at Michigan,
but,
we had a thrilling battle.
he basically
for the win
retired
between
and just
Chris Cord
he and
Chip
BR
Robinson,
DeWitt
as
just
they were
owned the
side by
61 in the
side
Busch Series
down
now.
the backstretch on the final lap. However, from out of nowhere came Dale Earnhardt as he made it 3 wide for the lead, and Earnhardt would go on to win at Michigan. As Terry Labonte, the 1987 Winston Cup champion, went on to win the final race of the season at Watkins Glen, it was Dale Earnhardt taking home the IROC championship for 1988.
Whew. Once again, 3 for Dale.
Moving over to the Winston Cup Series, Riverside returned with its new renovations and will be on the Winston Cup schedule for years to come. NASCAR would also host its first overseas exhibition race at the Calder Park Thunderdome in Australia. From 1988 onwards, another change is that the All-Star race will be rotating to various tracks, which we will cover each year. In 1988, it will be hosted by North Wilkesboro for NASCAR's 40th anniversary. Morgan Shepherd moved over to the Haas Ellington.
That was a rumor in real life that we just
coming over
made a reality.
Brett Bodine also moved up to the Winston Cup as he replaced Morgan Shepherd in the 26 for King Racing.
Excuse me.
Ken Schrader also remains in the number 90 for Junie Dunlevy, while Terry Schoonover remains in Lake Speed's number 83 car. Speaking of which, Lake Speed continued to drive for Danny Marshall in the 85 car as Marshall limited his return to the Busch Series. Jimmy Means would stick with Hendrick Motorsports full-time as he ended up taking Tim Richmond's place while he is on rehab. The 25 has been renumbered to 52, with Folgers remaining the sponsor. Jack Roush made the jump over to NASCAR to start up a Winston Cup team as they fielded the number 6 Stroh's Light Ford. With Mark Martin still with Bud Mort, Roush signs on short track star Dick Trickle to the team. And lastly, Bobby Allison ran the full 1988 season since he never had his career-ending crash like in real life. Dale Earnhardt had waited all winter to show that he was not a driver to mess with. He wasn't happy with how the 1987 season ended and would go on to dominate the 1988 Daytona 500.
Yeah, when I look at that, it's like Dale Earnhardt kind of began a redemption tour, won the 88 500,
Daytona 500,
then gets the 89 championship.
Of the black GM Goodwrench paint scheme. He showed why he should remain the favorite as he pursues his 3rd Winston Cup. Earnhardt would add an exclamation point to his statement win with what may be the hottest start in NASCAR history, claiming the first 3 points wins in a row with victories at the reconfigured Richmond Raceway and then at Rockingham.
Yeah, I think that's the only time
7 wins on the season,
that we may have had somebody in the
Spring
Winston Cup win
Martinsville
3 in a
race,
row.
the return
Or
to
like
Riverside,
most recent, I should
the
say.
National Fairgrounds, and the Fall Rockingham
That point,
race.
right.
In March, NASCAR held its first ever international race for the Winston Cup Series, an exhibition at Calder Park. Many drivers from down under were in the race, competing against the Winston Cup regulars. It would be one of those locals taking the win, as supercar star Dick Johnson beat out NASCAR's regulars to win in Melbourne. Ken Schrader came so close to getting his first win at Daytona in 1987, but he and Junie Dunleavy's team would finally break out, winning the Trans-South 500 at Darlington. The Fenton, Missouri native showed that it wasn't a fluke because
Kenny
2
Schrader.
races later, he would hold off another up-and-comer in Rusty Wallace to earn his second win at North Wilkesboro. This was certainly a breakout season.
I don't think
for
we
Schrader
covered the
and
Hoosier
his
Tires
team.
thing a whole lot, and with
Speaking
Dick
of
Johnson,
Rusty
I
Wallace,
don't
he had
think.
an incredibly consistent season.
I don't think it was
but
just something we
couldn't
thought
quite
about
earn
much
his
back
first
then.
win until the summer. Rusty's first career win came at Watkins Glen.
Honestly, I
as
think
he
that's all I can
overtook
remember.
Harry Gant on a late restart, and then held
I'm
up
pretty
a
sure he ran
hard-charging
some other
Phil
races, but I'm
Parsons
trying to
for the
remember
win.
what.
Rusty
It's
would
been a
then
while.
win at Michigan the next week, and then a third win at Texas World. Another driver that began to break out on the scene was an owner-driver from Wisconsin named Alan Kowicki. Kowicki would finish 16th in the
the
standings,
Underbird.
but he showed flashes of brilliance, including getting his first career Winston Cup victory at the Fall Bristol race. Afterward, he would perform what would end up being known as the Polish
I remember telling
victory
myself
lap
whenever he
as
gets his
part of
first win,
celebration.
I have to make sure he does the Polish victory lap.
7-win season, a cold streak in the fall would cost him the championship. He would finish third in the standings, 168 points back.
Dunleavy's had some
In second
had
place
some wins in
was
this timeline.
Bill Elliott with 5 wins on the year. But he would fall just short to Rusty Wallace.
the birth of
In
Super
the
Rusty.
same year Rusty earned his first win, he got hot and would score the Winston Cup Championship. He may have only had 3 wins in what was a very competitive season, but he would have a series best, 17 top 5s and 20 top 10s. Rusty was quietly and quickly becoming one of the stars of the circuit. One
Yeah,
more
I
thing
agree.
to note was the 18th race of the season.
I agree
at
with
the second
Kowicki that he
Talladega
was
race.
very
An
very
awful
good at
crash
Bristol.
happened that would take 2 notable drivers out of action. After hitting Benny Parsons' number 35 car head on, Ken Bouchard would miss 2 races, while Benny Parsons would miss the rest of what was supposed to be his swan song season. Paul Newman would return for 1 race at Watkins Glen, while Mike Alexander would drive that car for the rest of the season. Benny Parsons announced that since his retirement
Before
tour got
Rusty
cut
became
short,
a
he would take the winner to prepare for one last
They
Daytona
hate him because he's
500
good.
in 1989. This incident is what led to the creation of the restrictor plate, limiting the top speeds at Daytona and Talladega, and some discussions were had about what's next to make super speedway
Yeah, I remember
racing safer.
When that wreck happened, we were like, because we were doing the unrestricted racing, we were like, okay, now it's time to do the restricted plates. Now it's time.
Some notable drivers that had a great season in 1988 included Phil Parsons finishing in 6th,
Who filled in
as
for
well
Ken
as
Bouchard?
Lake Speed finishing in 10th.
Oh,
Bobby Allison also improved to
who did he fill
11th
in
the
for?
standings for 1988, and Terry Schoonover was
sure I could
also
look it up.
finished 12th, as Bobby Allison had a disappointing season, finishing in 22nd.
1989.
And finally, for
Let's see.
part 1, we'll be covering the first half of the 1989 season. There are a few notable additions to the Busch Series schedule this year. 3 new short tracks join the circuit: Volusia, Lanier, and Motor Mile. Meanwhile, in silly season, Jimmy Spencer remains in the Busch Series for another year, with ambitions to win the championship.
I'll figure out what that was.
At the
My
age
apologies.
of 50, Sam Ard announced that 1989 would be his final full-time season
Ah,
behind
yes.
the wheel.
The season
Brent
where
Adcox continues
everything
to drive the
kind of
Marshall Motors
changed.
number 85 and Richie Evans has scaled back down to a part-time schedule, but he will have other drivers run the number 61. Two drivers from unique backgrounds, Richie Evans and Rob Moroso, exchanged the lead back and forth in the closing laps.
Yep, the turning point of NASCAR history this timeline, yeah.
It was Evans, the defending champion, adding a win at Daytona to his impressive resume. In the next race at Rockingham, Sam Ard led in the later stages of the race after most of the field was caught a lap down. Ard would go on to win to kick off his swan song season on a high note and close out a victory.
The Super Rusty nickname is canon.
If
If we want it to be, I mean,
both Darlington races,
I think I started doing it because like you guys started calling it.
His
So
thrilling retirement tour
you know,
also
I just
11 top fives.
I
and
just couldn't help but say
16
Super
top
Rusty.
10s. However, he would fall short of the championship.
I wonder what other nicknames I
And
could think of for
moving on
him.
to the 1989 Winston Cup schedule, unlike real life, Sonoma does not join the Winston Cup schedule. Yet. This is due to Riverside still being around. With that in mind, there are no other changes. In terms of silly season, Hendrick Motorsports scales back down to 3 cars as they shut down the number 35 team. Jimmy Means continues to drive for the team in the number 52. Mike Alexander replaces a now retired Buddy Baker in the number 86 car. Davey Allison's number 28 team is now owned by Robert Yates. And Danny Marshall and Lake Speed merged teams and now have a 2-car operation with Lake Speed
In the original timeline, she didn't even qualify for a race.
the drivers.
Did Norm Benning run races in this timeline? I've had him attempt races in the past, and he's made some, he's missed some, but
feel-good story.
yeah.
A short track star became a super speedway champion as Dick
You know,
Trickle would score the win
with Dick Trickle
in
winning the
Great
500 in this
American
timeline,
race. He kicked off
I
his
feel like
second
it kind of
full-time season
foreshadowed
with a
when
bang. And on top of
Greg
that,
Van
this
Alst
was
won
first
the
win
ARCA
for
race in
car
Daytona
owner
a
Jack
couple years
Roush.
ago.
This team could be worth watching going forward. They quietly brought Trickle to a Rookie of the Year win last year, but everyone knows them now. 1989 seemed to be full of first-time winners and big stories. When the Winston Cup returned to Daytona for the Firecracker 400, we had another upset winner in the form of Mark Gibson, who passed defending champion
That's
Rusty
right,
Wallace
Mark
late in
Gibson.
the race. This would go on to be the only Cup win of his career. These two upsets
We
were
had some
impressive,
unique winners.
but both would be overshadowed late in the summer.
Here it
At the
is.
second race at Michigan, we had one of NASCAR's biggest upsets yet. This one, however, was history in the making. NASCAR is about to change forever, thanks to a driver not many took as a serious competitor until now. Coming off turn 4 and heading to the checkers, Means looks to the inside, but it won't be enough. History is about to be made. In just 9 years, NASCAR already looks very different from the real 1989. Tim Richmond is about to make a triumphant return to racing.
That's
Davey
right, 'cause
Allison
I
still
covered
has a lot to prove.
more of 89
Dale
in the
Earnhardt
second
is
part.
a multi-time Daytona 500 winner in his prime, and we have several new faces in victory lane. And it all started by just starting
Now, part
over.
2,
In the second
part 2 will
of
have
Sunday Night Lights
1989,
Restart,
more of it,
will reach
all the way to
1997,
97.
where the series stands today. Things are about to get even crazier as the butterfly effect continues. There will be new stars, historic winners, and schedule changes you've never seen before. This series is a unique celebration of what makes NASCAR special. Every driver, owner, crew member, and track has a story to tell. Our timeline explores that in an entirely new way, as we watch things play out together. As Carl Edwards once said, history can be rewritten. Thank you so much for watching, and for those of you who are new, get ready for things to get even more exciting in the 90s. The second part of Restart will be premiering on Friday, May 17th, and I can't wait to see you there.
That's funny because
After that, the 1998
2000's going to
season will fully
premiere
get
the day
underway behind
on the
scenes,
16th, the day
with
before the
video
1 year
for that
anniversary
season
that
dropping
part
this
2 came
summer,
out.
as well as more volumes of Racing Infinity, one-off simulations.
I actually made that part
inspired
2 in
by
like
Griff Dog's
2
inner
weeks.
2003 shorts. Thank you to everyone who's been involved in this series over the past few years, and I can't wait.
I remember staying up
represent
very
the
late to
90s
work on that
in
second part,
2
worried that I
of
was not going to
Sunday
make the
Night Lights
deadline.
Restart.
But I made it.
You think you've seen it all? Not even close. Racing history is about to change forever.
But yeah, part 2, if you haven't seen it, covers the rest of 89, and then it goes all the way to 1997. So, I just remember sitting there, running that Michigan race, and I went, oh my god, Patty Moyes won? This is a big freaking deal. We have to do something about this. So, and look at her now, right? So, yeah. Well, there you have it. Yeah, so it's been an adventure making those videos. Some weird recommendations here. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this. It was just fun chatting with you guys about all this and just kind of looking back on how it all began. Really, I can't believe it's been 5 years since I started all this, and you know, the first videos I ever made for this timeline, I admit they weren't that great, but the quality is so much better now, and that was the reason to also doing Restart, was just you know, improving the quality and showcasing it in a better way, and I think we did that. So, you know, I'm proud of that. And like I said, I'm really excited to show you guys 2000, and I really hope you guys enjoy it when it comes. So, May 16th will be here before you know it. So, it's important that you know, just continue rolling with the punches and continuing to make good quality content, and yeah. I was going to say don't leave, but then we won't get SNL 2000 until October. Nah. This timeline's going to keep going. You know, I want to get through the 2000s. I want to go into the 2010s, 2020s, and so on and so forth. So, you know, I couldn't even begin to imagine what the timeline will look like by 2025. I can't even tell you what's going to look like in 2005. So... Which, speaking of 2005, just a few days ago, the first video ever to be released on YouTube, jeez, I can't speak, on YouTube, released 20 years ago. So, we now have a video on YouTube that's 20 years old. That is just, that's unreal to me. It's like, wow, really? It was that long ago now? It doesn't feel like it, but it is, you know? So, yeah. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Like I said, it's been fun doing all this, and to me, it's a fun way of celebrating why we love racing in a more creative way. Like I said, it wasn't just like throwing a bunch of what-ifs together and, you know, seeing what happens. It was just more of like recreating racing history, and like what Carl Edwards said, you know, history can be rewritten, and that's pretty much what we have here. As a matter of fact, Restart Part 1 is almost at 3,000 views, and like I said, Racing Infinity, the recent one, just hit 1,000, so seriously, thank you guys for the support there. YouTube is 20 years old, really? Yeah, April 2005 is when YouTube launched. I think I've been watching videos on YouTube as early as like 2007 probably. So, yeah, long time. But, gosh, yeah, I can't believe it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it also has been that long, if you get what I mean. So, oh, God. I'm 28 and I feel old. Anyway, but yeah. 2000, like I said before, it's I've made a lot of progress with recording footage for all that, and we've been making some graphics for it, and should get the video started in the coming days, and go from there. So, and like I said, we'll work towards that May 16th release date, and I'm really looking forward to it, because 2000's a pretty big year. I feel like there's a lot of cool things that happen, and I think you guys are going to like it. So it's definitely a lot of stories to be written, for sure. And, we're kind of hitting a new era. A bunch of young drivers are coming in now. They're looking to shape the future of the sport for the next, 10 to 15 years, perhaps, and stuff like that. I've been watching YouTube videos since 2008. Yeah. It's it's crazy. Like it's weird thinking about like what YouTube used to be like back then compared to like now, and like it's just so much different, And YouTube has just become integrated in just all of our lives, right? Whether you make content or you watch videos, no matter what you do. So I guess a happy 20th anniversary to YouTube. So, let's see. I've gone on for about an hour and a half. So, if you guys have any more questions or anything like that, feel free to ask away. Of course, with some things, I'll answer the best I can. But, yeah. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. And at some point, we'll probably do a director's commentary with part 2, Like I said, it's been a while since even I looked back on this video, and, I was kind of like, oh, that's right, I ended part 1 on a cliffhanger, and, then started up part 2 with 1989 and all that. So, yeah. Feel free to share this around. Like I said, if you want a good introduction, if you're new to Sunday Night Lights, you don't know much about it, you want a good introduction, watch Sunday Night Lights Restart to get a good idea and catch up on everything that has happened, and all that good stuff. So, excuse me. And at the end of the day, I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support you give us, really. And without you guys, it just wouldn't mean as much. So I appreciate that you guys love it, and I'm glad you all really enjoy this stuff, and we'll keep at it, and we'll keep doing it. So like I said, we got plenty of ideas and moving forward, and we're excited to show you what 2000 is going to look like. So like I said, that's the next video that's going to be released on this channel. So got a lot of work ahead, but looking forward to it. And yeah, I think this video is going to slap. I really think it's going to. So stay tuned for more updates. I'll provide you guys more updates and let you all know what things look like and the video progress and stuff of that nature, and everything else. So if you guys don't have any more questions or comments or concerns or anything like that, I'll probably go ahead and close up shop for the night, and I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your evening and all that fun jazz. So let's see. And then, of course, congrats to Lawless Allen for winning the ARCA race. Shout out to Isabella Robusto getting a top 3 finish. How cool is that? Xfinity race final thoughts. Gutted for Zilich. That was a situation where he was just trying to block for the win. Jesse Love was trying to make the pass for the win, and it just didn't end well. And Austin Hill somehow snuck away with the win. I know Jeb Burton felt like he won, and he was very emotional, which, you know what, I do think Hill won, but I understand why Jeb Burton felt the way he did. It's easy to get emotional. It's so easy to get caught up with the emotions and what's going on, and you know, and for someone like Jeb Burton and that team who doesn't run up front as much as other teams do, you know, when the opportunity presents itself to win, excuse me, okay, gotta get that under control. You know, when the opportunity presents, okay, that's enough. Jesus. When the allergies kick in, I sneeze once, I have to sneeze like 5 more times. Anyway, you know, the opportunity presents itself. You want to win, like anybody else, right? So, in a way, I understand why he's upset. Fully understand. I try to see things from both sides. Unless it's obvious and I'm like, oh, well, you know. And then Catherine Legg, she was in the top 20 at the end, towards the end there before she got caught up in that wreck, and that wasn't her fault at all. I was so bummed because she was doing well. I felt like she could have gotten away with like top 15, maybe a top 10 finish, you know. So those are just my thoughts. And then, yeah, I'm okay. The sneezing is just that time of the year with allergies. The weather changes. Allergies whoop my butt all the time, and I'm not gonna have the allergies slow me down for making this video. No, sir. No, sir. That's not happening. So, just gotta keep pushing forward, you know. Gotta continue to hit the grind and everything else. 'Cause sometimes you gotta hit that grind. And then, of course, enjoy the cup race tomorrow. Hopefully it goes well and all that fun stuff. So, we'll be watching that. I'll be working on more SNL stuff. So, okay. Those are some final thoughts there. You know, I'm not going to have you guys wait as long as Shadur Sanders had to wait to get drafted to the frickin' Browns. This makes me glad I'm a Bengal fan. Anyway, okay, I'm going to wrap up. You guys have a good night. And stay tuned for more updates. I appreciate all the support, and I will see you all next time.